I don't exactly know when he'll be back, but we are continuing that progression. I know that's been a 3+ week answer, but I can't give you anything really much more than that, just because that's as far as I know. But I do feel as though, or he feels as though, and so does Corey, our trainer, as if he's progressing back to getting closer to playing. I don't think it's imminent, but I do think we're getting close. We're about to start 4 games in 8 days. Talking today about just kind of like the war of attrition, and really embracing not only our style of play, but our minute distribution, our conditioning, our training, and hoping that as the season unfolds, those things are going to be positives for us that we can kind of build and grow on. And hopefully as the season evolves, we'll be able to get better and better because of it, because I think we're really built to withstand hopefully the rigors of a full season. Spent a lot of time on rebounding, obviously, since the New Mexico State game. Very, very troubling execution at that end of the floor. As much as we want to tip our hat to them, and they did a great job there. There's a lot that we needed to clean up, and that was pretty much yesterday's practice, and will be today's practice as well. Continuing to shore up that area of our defense, and really just turn to Tennessee Tech, and good basketball team, very experienced. I think it's 2 grad transfers and 2 more seniors. I mean, 5 of their top 6 are all seniors. Shoot the ball very well. Their starting point guard has an incredible assist-to-turnover ratio. I think it was 23-4 or something like that in the few games they've played. They're 3-1. They can shoot the 3, experienced, very good basketball team. So we have to really prepare for them and buckle down to make sure we can get back in the win column and move forward and progress with our season.
What sort of rebounding adjustments do you make? You talked about working on rebounding. What sort of adjustments do you make going into this rebounding?
Really just going to be an emphasis, and that's probably me as a coach not spending enough time doing more of it. And we have spent time on it, but that really demonstrated that I hadn't done enough of it, and we have to make it a much bigger emphasis going forward. And New Mexico State did a really good job of slowing the game down and taking more traditional offensive shots with good rebounding position and things like that. And in my defense, or in our defense, we haven't seen much of that yet this year. We've been getting teams to kind of shoot quickly or kind of take them when not everybody was down yet, or whatever it may be. They were just kind of abnormal offensive shots, and they did a good job of taking traditional offensive shots and getting good offensive rebounders ready to go to the glass. So we spent more time on traditional defensive possessions and closing them out the right way.
When you say you haven't spent as much time, I mean, I've been to some practices. You guys spend an awful lot of time on rebounding. So how much of what happened on Friday is a realization that maybe you just don't have the personnel to rebound, and how much of it do you, when you watch the film, you said there were execution things you saw. So that, in a weird way, might be kind of a positive sign because you saw things that they can still do. What's the balance between you guys have the personnel to rebound and maybe you just need to work on it more?
I mean, I don't think there's a coach that'll ever acknowledge it's a personnel issue. You always just want to do the best with what you have. And right now, that's the guys we have, and we have to do a better job as a team boxing out. New Mexico State exploited what became a real weakness, and we've got to make sure we clean that up.
Could you see that could happen? I mean, was that one of your concerns?
No question. We talked about it going into the game that Jones and Chua were elite offensive rebounders, and they proved it. They're special at it. And like I said after the game, I've seen them win a lot of games that way, and they were able to go out and do it again.
Tennessee Tech seems like a dribble drive penetration team, at least what we've seen them so far. Is that a focus, and are they that kind of team?
Yeah, I mean, undersized team that can shoot the 3, good speed, good quickness. And when I say undersized, it doesn't mean it's crazy, but they'll do some things similar to New Mexico State from a defensive perspective with some pressures and some denials and things in the half court. They can probably shoot it a little bit better than they could. And like I said, their seniority is a real concern, as is the fact their starting point guard, I think, is 23-4 assists to turnovers. Like, just when you have a steady point guard and you're very senior laden, you can shoot the ball and defend, you're a threat. And I don't care who you are or where you're coming to play.
You mentioned the update on Connor earlier. Since it is, I mean, I know it's only been 3 games, but if it extends into, you have 4 games in 8 days, you're talking 20% of the season maybe at the front end for a guy who already missed almost a whole season in injury. Have you guys even discussed a possible redshirt?
You know, the first time it came up was a couple days ago amongst us as coaches, but I think Connor's just so set right now on trying to get back and help his teammates and play. It's not something we've had really serious discussions about. If you're right and we're 3 weeks from now and he's not progressing at a rate, then maybe that's a conversation. But I think Connor probably feels and we probably feel that he's not that far out at this point.
You know, so many new guys, how much is, you know, like something like what happened this past Friday, how much is something like that because of that? You know, you got to get the chemistry. You gotta,
Sure.
They've been playing with each other a long time, and then you go into an environment like that.
Yeah.
That's hostile and survival.
Agreed. And I'm not an excuse guy by any means. We have to get better. We should have won the basketball game. I should have done a good enough job as coaches and us as a team to play better than we did. But the reality is we do have a lot of new guys. It's the third game of the season of trying to implement a brand new system and bring a new coach and a lot of new players together. And it was definitely a hiccup as far as that went. And we just got to keep trucking along and keep progressing with what we do.
A couple individual players had off offensive nights. Antino, Troy, specifically. With Antino first, is that something that you saw specifically he was doing maybe out of normal, or I mean, were they doing something to him? What resulted in, or what led to Antino's goal scorers?
You know, I think Antino's a very unique player. He's kind of an undersized scoring guard that's learning to play point, and even in the games he's played well, you know, he makes tough shots, takes tough shots, plays a little bit out of the flow because that's just kind of who he is. He's just kind of he's got a scoring mentality, and there's times I think it helps him and there's times I think it hurts him. And I think he put himself in some places that weren't the greatest and his shot selection wasn't the greatest. But there's been a lot of times in the previous games it hasn't been good either and the ball's gone in. So I think a little bit of that is just that's going to come with him. He's not going to be Mr. 14 points a game for 32 games this year. I think he's going to have some games where he has tremendous nights and scores a lot of points and some other, you know, times where he doesn't. As far as Troy goes, I just don't think he got into a great flow, especially mentally. I think the technical foul and then the second technical foul, I just don't know if, you know, his first road game as a Division I player, he was completely mentally prepared to go out and execute the way he wanted. I don't want to say that was everything. I think there are times you got to credit what the other team did, but Troy just couldn't really get into any kind of a flow.
Is there a conversation you have with Troy after an ejection kind of game and a game that he didn't score when he's a scorer?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. We had some conversations yesterday.
Is there any issue with what he did? Like, was he, I guess, just to ask him, was he disciplined for getting ejected? Did you see anything?
You know,
that
it's to be a part of two double technicals, I think is a little unique, you know, that, you know, he just happened to be getting into it with another player and another team twice. Now that's a pattern and that's potentially a problem, and that's something that we're discussing and we're going to continue to discuss as it goes forward. But at the same time, it also could have been two independent instances of two competitive players at a time going at it. It wasn't a flagrant, it wasn't anything over the top, it wasn't anything overtly even physical. It was an emotional game of players getting tangled up in the midst of whatever. And at this point, it could probably go either way, and his behavior going forward will determine whether that was real or potentially two independent situations.
they were both reviewed? I mean, they weren't just really over out there. They both had to be reviewed to.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I guess I watched, there was no overt physical gesture or even verbal gesture that you could see from film.
And I didn't ask you after the game, but what about your technical? Was that an instance of a coach trying to get a technical?
No, it really wasn't. I thought he was trying to warn me for out of the box. I didn't even think a technical was coming. I felt it was like there was a hand and there was a slow it down, and I thought he was going to come back to me and say, "Coach, get back in the box." And then when he turned back around, it became a T. So I didn't know what kind of went into that. I never said anything aggressive to any of them in a demeaning way or anything over the top with my language or anything of that nature. So I thought it was a box issue. I didn't think it was anything else. And the last thing I wanted to do was get a technical, so I wasn't aiming to get one by any means.
Do we have to sit out because of a double technical, or are there any rules like that?
There are some rules in the Mountain West, but Troy right now is cleared to play from the Mountain West.
How resilient do you think you guys are? Because you'll find find out now.
About to find out, yeah. These are never pleasant times. So yesterday was not a pleasant practice. Today won't be a pleasant practice. We need to learn how to respond to adversity better, and the only way to do that is to create those instances, and yesterday and today are going to be that way. I am sensitive to going too far that way. When I kind of evaluated my own self after last season, I felt that I didn't take losing the best way I probably could have, and it might have led to more losing, so I don't want to go in that direction. If I had to do it over again last year, I would have maybe adjusted how I responded, but at the same time, losing is still losing, and it's unacceptable, and we have to find a way to make sure we respond better when a game isn't going our way or even just things aren't going our way.
What's the key in a week like this where you have 3 games in a short period of time?
Yeah, I think it's 4 games in 8 days, so we know what's coming, and that's why I was saying earlier, this is, to me, there's a lot of reasons why we've embraced, or I want us to embrace this style of play and why I believe in it, and part of it I feel is kind of that war of attrition and being where we want to be in March and being a team that's still together and still fresh and still wants to play for each other and doesn't want to just pack in the season. And I think part of that comes from playing 23 minutes a night instead of 35 minutes a night over the course of the season. I think you're fresher. I think your legs will be better, and I think it's going to help us progress as the season goes on as opposed to wearing guys down right now. And hopefully having 4 games in 8 days is going to be a little easier for us than it would another team that doesn't play this way. So that's the hope, and we'll see how it ends up kind of coming to fruition or not.
The conditioning part, somewhat of a follow-up to that, but Friday night, the last 10 minutes, you guys were outscored. Was that just you used the word snowball, I know, after the game. Was that just a snowball effect, or was there some fatigue at all that you felt the final 10 minutes hit your team fatigue-wise?
I don't think there was any physical fatigue. I really don't. I think there was some mental fatigue, and not even necessarily mental fatigue as much as exactly. I think there was just a frustration level, a disappointment level, a mental response to adversity that was not what we wanted. And that's probably me as a coach spending so much time on the physical component of things. I haven't done as good enough a job developing them in the mental component of things. And I felt as though that the physical toughness would allow us to be mentally tougher, and I think there's a part of that, but we haven't really just focused on the mental side of things, and that's something that I have to do a better job of going forward, and we have to do a better job of as a team, and I included myself in that as well. I mean, for me to get a technical foul is not me being mentally strong enough in adverse situations. I wasn't really trying to get one, and nor did I do anything I felt that immediately warranted one, but I still got one, and that's on me, and I have to get better. So hopefully our mental toughness improves, and I think if it does, then it'll allow the physical stuff to take care of itself. But it was our season low in deflections, our season low in forced turnovers, our season low in energy stats, which we keep, and our season low in offensive rebounds. We didn't do any of the things we wanted to do, and I don't think that was physical because those happen over the course of an entire game. I think it was just our inability to handle a hostile road environment and the game not going our way.
Environment, I had talked to you since then. Was it what you expected, or was it worse than what you expected?
I said after the game, I thought the fans did an amazing job for their home team. They cheered them on. They did everything they could to help them win the game. At no point did I ever feel as though it overtly crossed the line or anything was inappropriate. They did a great job supporting, their team, and you got to tip their caps to them. They did a great job.
Anything else?
Thank you.